What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Eggheads Entertainment Podcast. Today we bring to you another episode where we talk to Mr. Alex Bernstein. We talk about Solo, a Star Wars film, and whether or not this film needed to be made. Should it have been made? Did we really need it? He argues that, of course, why not? But it wasn't successful, being that it was a Star Wars film. A Star Wars film is known to make a lot of money, have a lot of hype behind it, and Solo didn't feel that way. It wasn't marketed that way. Should Disney have put a little bit more effort into marketing this film? Or did they think that it's a Star Wars film, it's gonna make money, people are gonna go see it, we don't really have to do much? So we talk about those things. Sit back, relax, enjoy the conversation. It's not very long, so sit back and enjoy. Thank you. How you doing, Alex?
I'm great, Pablo. How are you?
I'm good.
Long time no see.
Yeah. So, Solo. You haven't seen it, correct?
I have not seen it.
Will you be seeing it?
I'm going to see it eventually. I think it looks great. I think it looks excellent. I know it got mixed reviews, and I know it's comparatively, it hasn't quite tanked at the box office, but people have been
For Star Wars, it
quote
has.
unquote disappointed.
For Star Wars, it's tanked. For Star
Star
Wars, a franchise or
For every other movie on the planet,
yes,
it's gonzo.
Exactly.
But for Star Wars, it's underperformed.
I mean, were you excited to see Solo? Have you in the past, for the Star Wars franchises in the past, have you gone to go see it that first weekend? Have you been more excited to go see that than this?
I'm not, at this point in my life, the kind of guy who's going to be lined up around the block to see the latest one.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of being excited about it, I think it looks great.
Mm-hmm.
I love the Disney deal that they took over the franchise. I remember when they decided to come back in the 90s and make 3 more movies,
Mm-hmm.
and people were stunned. I mean, I was first in line at that point, and I was in my 30s.
I remember that.
Yeah, and me and my cousin, we were so excited to see The Phantom Menace, and then we had mixed reactions to the other 2 films. Still love Jar Jar Binks though, man. I love Jar Jar Binks. I'm the guy that I like him almost as much as I like Green Lantern.
I think the best out of those 3 prequels was Return of the
the last one was great.
The last one was by far, for me, the best one.
Yeah, the last one was great. I think the first one is interesting. I think the race with the kid takes way too long, and the second one's painful, and I can't stand Hayden Christensen.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying isn't anything new. We were just so excited that they continued, and then when those were done, we figured we're done. Because then he said he wasn't going to make any more. He said he was done. So every time it comes back, we get excited. And when Disney took it over and said we're gonna blow it up, I thought that was the best thing in the world. It's funny, in the comics, they especially Dark Horse Comics really went deep into the mythology. I think the books did too, but I know Dark Horse just built up this massive.
Is Dark Horse canon?
No. So that's the thing, is that when Disney announced that they were going to start the series again, they kind of cut the legs out from under Dark Horse. They have since then reprinted a lot of the Dark Horse stuff, and I think that they'll probably reprint all of it because some of it's just fabulous. But I don't know that any of it's canon. I think at this point people are like, well,
Disney decides what's canon.
Yeah, exactly. I actually really liked last year's the second one.
The Last Jedi.
The Last Jedi. I was just thrilled to see Mark Hamill back on the screen.
Why so many other people were disappointed?
I was not, I didn't need to see Leia flying in space and stuff.
Yeah,
but
I was.
Yeah, I mean, there were some moments. It's funny, people had to talk me into the problems. But when I saw it at the time, I didn't have any problems with it.
Yeah.
I was thrilled to see Mark Hamill. I think Mark Hamill should have been up for Best Actor.
Are you one of those people who went into the movie just wanted to see a Star Wars film and didn't have all these
theories and...
My biggest problem with The Last Jedi, I try not to go in with theories. I try not, unless I've been beaten up like, with the Infinity Wars thing where I just know the story so well. I try and, there's not a lot of backstory except for a couple guesses with the Star Wars movies, which I think is actually one of the problems with Solo and with some of the other stuff. But there are Star Wars junkies who do know the mythology and are begging for somebody like Mara Jade, who's important in the comics and in some of the books, to appear, and I'm sure at this point will probably never appear. But that's supposed to be Luke Skywalker's, wife in the books and comics. So I try not to have any preconceptions of what they're gonna do, which I kind of like. I kind of like that there's a universe that I don't know as much about. So I didn't have any great preconceptions. It just entertained me, which is a kind of a nice thing to see. So the most disappointing thing for me with The Last Jedi was that they kind of didn't go anywhere with Rey and with the guy, this trooper who became Finn.
Oh, Finn, yeah.
With Rey and Finn. I mean, they kind of just shoved them off to the side. And so that was a and I didn't like Liam flying in space. But other than that, I thought that the whole Adam Driver, Luke Skywalker thing was pretty cool. And I will give it way the benefit of the doubt for just delivering that. I would have loved to see more Mark Hamill, but I thought they just treated him. I thought he had a real good movie.
Yeah. Well, for most people who went into, especially for myself, who wanted to know who Rey was and what that lineage was, who wanted to know who the hell is this guy Snoke, how important is he, who is this guy?
Right.
And none of that was answered. I think that was probably one of the most disappointing aspects for most people who went to go see the film. But if you do, if you rewatch it, I only saw it once, but if you rewatch it and listen to the dialogue, there's a lot said in the dialogue. And people, it went over their heads because people, they want answers to questions and they weren't deliberately just given to them.
I think that what they said in the movie about Rey was misleading. I don't buy that, and I didn't buy it when he said it.
Yeah.
I thought, because now again they're building a new mythology. They don't have to give everything up.
Yes.
In the second movie. And it's funny because people were devastated that he said that.
Yeah.
And I was like, really?
People were devastated that Snoke died so easily, and it was just that.
It might not even be him. I mean, it's in this universe, anything can happen. Who knows what's going to happen?
Yeah.
And I loved Rogue One. I thought Rogue One was excellent just
Yeah,
because it had a real B-movie quality to it. And I think they could have even kept going with that franchise. So I would say that in the macro, I really trust what they're doing. And I didn't see Solo, but I imagine that what they were doing with Solo is in the same ballpark. I think the executives there have a real, firm grip on what they're doing. There's the controversy about the directors. I like Ron Howard. I think he was, I know that there's the whole mess of having to bring in another director, and that probably didn't help with the confidence of the moviegoers, who are probably just also being beaten up by tentpole movies at the moment.
So do you think it was a mistake for them to release it up against those guys that were still in theaters?
Yeah, right. I think that if they had released it a month later, I don't know what the rest of the summer's competition is other than Ant-Man.
Yeah.
But certainly, you're coming off Infinity Wars is still going. Deadpool we knew it was going to have a gigantic weekend. So I don't know really why they didn't at least wait a couple weeks. And I think that the fact that they had the director mix up, it's just kind of they had a lot of the bad ideas happening all at once. I think if they had released it in July or mid-end of June, they would have probably had almost a double weekend. Yeah.
Do you think we needed Solo?
Sure. Oh, sure.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Wow. And I think we really, I think we really need an Obi-Wan Kenobi movie starring Ewan McGregor.
Yes.
You gotta have him play it. I'd even take Liam Neeson back as
I'd like to know
Jar Jar Binks movie.
But I'd like to know what happened with Obi-Wan during that time that he was there looking over Luke.
Yeah.
Darth Vader, I'd love to see him and his
Sure.
struggles as being
Sure.
Darth Vader. But Solo, really?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you gotta have a Solo movie. Well, I think the other thing.
Why?
I think, well, for a few reasons. Well, do you need a Solo movie? You don't need any of these movies.
No.
I think, but this. I think
You're right. You don't need any of these
you don't need any of these. Right, but if you're gonna make these movies, why not go in every direction you can?
But you do need the
you want a
Star Wars
Boba Fett
franchise.
movie? I'd rather see a Solo movie
I
than
don't
a
need to
Boba
see a
Fett
Boba Fett
movie.
movie. I don't need to see a Boba Fett movie. I don't need to see a Solo movie. I want to see it because it's in the story. But is it too much?
First of all, is it too much?
Yeah, I think
Oh,
it's too
come on.
much. It takes away from. I think it takes
The
away.
the guy who's seen 19 Marvel movies,
That's
5 times a
different.
piece,
That's
thinks
different.
that it's
That
too much.
is different. That is different.
There's no difference.
This is the difference.
If you got the most hard, which we may have right now, if you got the most hardcore Marvel fanboy versus the most hardcore Star Wars fanboy, I couldn't tell you who would win.
With the first Star Wars, you loved every character that was in it.
Sure.
You didn't necessarily need a solo film from some of these characters because you wanted to see how all of the
Right.
characters fared in each subsequent
Sure.
film. We never had a solo film of a specific character that connected everyone, that connected to this universe. They're attempting it now obviously with Solo. We're probably gonna get an Obi-Wan. I don't even know why we need a Boba Fett film.
I think if you're going to do this tact, you don't have to do this, but I think, and I don't know, and I don't think they did do this from what I hear from reports of the movie, but I think if you're going to go exploring in different areas, then you need to allow yourself to kind of open up those avenues. And I don't know that they didn't do this, but I mean, to me, the most interesting parts of the Phantom Menace were Qui-Gon Jinn and Darth Maul, right? Which are still totally recognizable as Star Wars universe things, but you're expanding the universe out into areas where you've got new characters. I mean, again, in the comic books, in these Dark Horse comics, you've got hundreds of Jedi, and you're seeing hundreds of Jedi off on their millions of quests and universes and stuff. And yet, it doesn't really fall far from the tree. You have different personalities and you have different makeups. And I think you got a little of that with the Qui-Gon Jinn character. So I think in Solo or in any of these other franchise movies, if they don't just tell a story you already know, if there's stuff going on that is the fringes of Solo's universe, as long as he gets back to where he's supposed to go in the end. Which is kind of what they did in Rogue One. I mean, Rogue One, they kind of expanded all these weird characters, but they still kept it within the context of, well, we've got to get to how the whole get in the dark the Death Star.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you the other thing. I think they had great casting for Solo. I mean, I think that their cast of Han and Donald Glover for Lando, and just bringing in Emilia Clarke, and Chewbacca. I mean that's a great cast.
Yeah.
I mean, so right out of the bat, you're giving a story that most people would want to potentially see. I don't know why anybody wouldn't want to see Han Solo movie. That to me seems like a no-brainer.
But where do we go
and then
from?
they can't. But you can't.
But like with Marvel, you get a Captain America film, you get these individual films, and there's a sequel and then possibly
Sure.
a trilogy. Do
Right.
we get a trilogy with Solo? Do we get a next thing
I don't
with
know.
Solo?
I don't know that you need a trilogy, but if you're going to get a trilogy, to me, you've got to go to the fringes where you don't know where his story goes. Either you've got some massive story you want to tell that takes 3 movies to tell you about how he gets to where he is when Star Wars begins, which is kind of what they'd have to do with an Obi-Wan Kenobi movie. The big argument here for, say, James Bond at one far end of the spectrum and the entire Marvel universe at the other far end of the spectrum, and then I guess you could figure out where does Star Wars fit in that spectrum. You've got one guy, right? Are you really going to see a Q movie and a Miss?
That's what I was just thinking.
And a Miss
like,
Moneypenny movie.
We don't need that.
Right.
We don't need
versus Marvel having 42 established characters with their own multiple series.
They
right?
can do it.
But I would argue that Star Wars is in there. It's just that you don't know Lando well enough where you don't know. I mean, I think I wouldn't go to see a Boba Fett movie. That's where I would personally
Draw the
line. But I might. But I'll tell you something. If you could sell me on, no, you're gonna be like, come on. But if you could sell me on a compelling Yoda movie, when Yoda shows up in the first trilogy, and when Yoda actually shows up in these, spoiler again, but when Yoda shows, I mean, that's a great believable moment. And Yoda was a Jedi trainer. I mean, you could have a school. You could do like a Xavier school that Yoda's running, where he's training all the kids. That to me could actually be a compelling storyline. Here's what we're really talking about. We're talking about big piles of money all around the room. Which is always, Yoda's a pile of money over here, and Han's a pile of, and then over here is, and the thing about Yoda and Han, and I don't think Boba Fett, but somebody in the room's arguing about Boba Fett. The thing about Yoda and Han and Boba Fett is they're already known. They're known entities, If you can go off in a new area, and maybe there's a movie about Finn, or maybe there's a movie about Dameron Poe, and there's already a comic book series about this character that I don't even know, and I haven't read it, but it's supposed to be a mercenary that helps, comic book people will know this, Dr. Aphra, who is huge in the comics. I have no idea who this, I've never read a comic, but somehow this person became so popular that they got spun off into all these series. And so now that character has some cash in the comics. I think the reason you're seeing the Star Wars franchise is because of Disney. Is because of Marvel. It's because of the success of Marvel.
Oh yeah.
They're saying, where can we do this elsewhere?
Yeah, that's why Sony wants to do all this Spider-Verse thing. And
anybody who has a mythology franchise
are looking to do the same thing.
It's money, man. It's like printing money.
Yeah.